You know, I just really saw a really sad but moving video that I'm gonna post in the links called "The Never Love Concept" from pdxvlog. It reminded me of a story that I don't tell very often nowadays, but for a while there I was telling a whole lot, and that's the story of how I got engaged. I'll warn you, it's not a pretty story. It's actually really sad, but there's a lesson in that I've used to work with my clients and help my clients to accomplish and learn and grow from certain experiences. So here's what happened. I uh, I decided I wanted to propose to Dave. We'd been together about a year, and we were really happy. And I don't know what it was, but I just at some point realized I could spend the rest of my life with this guy. So I thought about it, and I talked to my our counselor and uh, my best friends, and I said, like, I think this is it. I think this is it. So I talked to them, and they were like, well, if you think this is it, then this is it. And so so I decided I wanted to surprise him. So I went and I found these James Avery rings, and I found this nice restaurant. And at the time, we were doing a date night once a week. So for our date night, I bought him flowers. So, he was surprised, but he didn't think it was anything that special, right? We went to this restaurant. We had this whole big meal and everything. And then I said, well, why don't we order coffee? And of course, I had already talked to the waitress, and I had told her I wanted her to bring the rings out with the coffee. And then we would open up the little James Avery box and see the rings. And so she did that. And then I got down on one knee in the middle of the restaurant, and I said, Dave, you're the most amazing man I've ever met in my life. And you inspire me in so many ways. You always keep me on my toes. Will you marry me? And he kind of hemmed and hawed, and he didn't know what to say. And finally, I started to realize that he couldn't say yes. And I was absolutely and completely heartbroken. And it was one of the toughest emotional times of my entire life. And I cried myself. I we stormed out of the restaurant. It was completely awkward because they're like, "Congratulations!" And meanwhile, it's like he couldn't say yes, and I realized that he wasn't ready to marry me, and I was just heartbroken. Anyway, we left the restaurant, and we'd already moved in together. We were sleeping in the same bed and everything. And the ride home was silent, and we went home, and when we got into bed, I just started crying, just crying and crying and crying, like crying my eyes out. And he said, "Is there anything you can do?" And I remember looking at him and saying that it was okay, because he really felt so bad. I mean, he just felt awful, but he said the right thing because he wasn't ready for this commitment. And I mean, I felt torn in two. And what I told him, I said, it's okay. Please just let me have this experience, because now I know what it feels like to have your heart broken. And now I'll be able to help people who have that experience, because now I can say I've had that experience. So, you don't need to push it away or make it less. So what I learned from that experience was that you need to fully experience every emotion that you have, every experience you have in life. Fully experience that. And if you do, for one, it doesn't hurt so bad. In the end, that night, I gave him the rings back, and I said, when you're ready, then you propose to me. And 3 days later, he came and proposed to me, and a year later, we got married here in Dallas at a beautiful wedding with 200 people there. We went up to Canada and got a marriage license 2 years later. And but the reason I say all of this, and the reason I tell that story, is because I got really inspired by the blog post that's in the links, because JD is experiencing his emotions. He's really letting himself feel every emotion, everything he's feeling, and he's channeling it into something really positive, like music. Some music that can help people. You know, even if it's full of hate, it lets other people like understand that. They feel empathy, like, oh, somebody gets me, somebody understands me. That's the power of feeling those emotions. You know, so many people want to say we shouldn't feel bad, we shouldn't feel negative. But by allowing yourself to feel that and not avoiding it or resisting it, you give yourself the power to understand it. And therefore, you can help other people deal with it and heal from it. Because that's really what it's all about, is healing. Thanks. Bye.